A father looks his teenage son in the eyes and says, "Sometimes being a man means doing what others can't." In 1922's Nebraska, these words led to the darkest night of their lives and something crawling out of their well months later. Haunting true story of how one family's greed turned their peaceful farm into a nightmare. The movie begins with strange sounds of a woman trapped in a deep well. A tired old farmer enters a hotel room to write down his dark secret. He explains that his crime started because of 100 acres of rich farmland in Hemingford, Nebraska that belonged to his wife. He had joined his 80 acres with his wife's land, hoping to give it all to their son one day. Going back to 1922, the farmer took great pride in two things, his land and his son. They worked hard every day to care for the soil, but his wife never helped because she wanted to sell everything and move to the big city of Omaha or St. Louis. The farmer thought cities were for foolish people, and his son agreed. The husband and wife argue about selling the land. He wants to buy her part slowly over 10 years, but she says no. She suggests they sell everything, split the money, and end their marriage. Even worse, she wants their son to come with her, which starts another fight. The husband asks for time to think, but his thoughts turn dark with hatred for his wife. He tells her he won't sell the land, but she warns that the buyers will make trouble for him. Meanwhile, their son falls in love with a girl named Shannon, which gives the father an evil idea. Working in the fields one day, the father tells his son they must fight for their land, even if someone has to die. The son looks scared, but his father keeps talking, saying life would be peaceful once she's gone. The next morning, their son leaves for school without kissing his mother goodbye. She calls him back for a kiss, wondering what's wrong. The husband watches from the window as mother and son talk. He keeps putting bad thoughts in his son's head about killing his mother, listing all the terrible things that could happen otherwise. At dinner, the son just stares at his food, making his mother angry. He talks back, but she still plans to sell and take him to the city. The next day, the husband pretends to change his mind, saying he'll join them and maybe work fixing cars. His wife gets so happy she kisses him. They have a party that night where she drinks too much and says things a 14-year-old shouldn't hear. The husband leads his stumbling, drunk wife to their bedroom, where she falls asleep. Outside, the father finds his son upset about the mean things his mother said about his girlfriend. The son asks if they could pay someone to help fight for their land, but they're too poor. Both know there's only one terrible choice left. The wife must die if they want to keep their farm. While the father sharpens a knife, his scared son suggests using a pillow instead, but the father says that would take too long. They sneak into the dark bedroom, and the son whispers innocently if they're sending his mother to heaven. The father just tells him to be quiet and promises it will be quick. Then everything turns horrible. The farmer stabs his wife, while his son holds a cloth over her face. She screams and fights so much that the farmer has to cut her throat. When it's finally over, they sit there breathing hard, unable to believe what they've done. Back in the hotel room, the old farmer confesses to killing his wife with his son's help. But he says there's something else he regrets even more. Going back to that awful night in 1922, they drag the body toward an old well. The son cries that a well isn't right for his mother's grave and faints. The farmer dumps her in anyway, then makes his son fetch buckets and soap. They have lots of cleaning ahead. All night long they scrub away blood from everywhere. The bedroom where it happened, the porch where they dragged her, every single spot. By morning, the exhausted son says he can't go to school. He's too scared people will somehow know, especially his girlfriend. The father checks the well and sees rats crawling all over his wife, even in her mouth. He yells at them to get away, then goes to change the bloody mattress. He cleans everything and gets rid of some of her clothes so no one will suspect. While working later, a lawyer comes looking for his wife. The father tells him firmly that she's not there, his heart pounding with each lie. The father and son tell the lawyer that the wife just got tired and ran away. The lawyer leaves but warns them something feels strange about it all. A few days later, they decide to hide the well better. They kill one of their big cows, drop it in, then cover everything with mud and dirt. When the sheriff comes snooping around their house, the son helps make up stories that fool him. They have a nice summer working their land together, just the two of them. But one day, the son's girlfriend visits to talk to the farmer. She's worried because his son seems different now, quiet and sad. The father tells her not to worry, saying maybe he's just missing her. Plus, they're very busy with farm work since the mother left. Their peaceful life doesn't last long. One night, their cows won't stop making scared sounds. The father runs to the barn and finds horrible rats biting the poor animals. He shoots at them and discovers they're coming from a pipe that leads straight to the well. Later that night, he jumps in fear when he sees what looks like his dead wife's shadow, but it's just his son asking what happened. The father lies, saying it was just a fox. Then comes more trouble. The son returns from school saying he got his girlfriend pregnant. They're only 15. The father gets angry, but the son cries that his mother would have helped them. They fight about it, remembering how his mother used to warn him to be careful. Finally, the father promises to help somehow. The girlfriend's father lives next door, and though he used to be friendly, the father now hates seeing his fancy car, new barn, and happy family. When he visits, he says they're sending his daughter to a special home in the city. He wants them to help pay the $300 cost, even just $75. But the father claims they have no money since his wife took it all when she left. The neighbor says if they'd sold their land like the wife wanted, they'd have money now, and she might still be around. When the son hears this news, he gets furious about sending his girlfriend away. He suggests they could run away together, just like his parents could have escaped their problems. This makes his father explode with anger. They can't run because they have no money. But the son shouts back that his father can't control him anymore. The son blames his father for everything, crying that they could have found another way. The next morning, he leaves for school quietly. The father searches the house for money, finding bits here and there, but he's still $35 short for the neighbor. At the bank, instead of getting just $35, they try to convince him to borrow $750 to fix up his house. He says he'll talk to his son about it first. But his son, who now wants to be called Hank, has already stolen their truck and run away. He leaves a scary note saying if his father looks for him, he'll tell the sheriff about their terrible secret. Now the father must live alone on the land he fought so hard to keep. He tries to read books to stay calm, but his mind keeps showing him blood that isn't there. He even takes a dress off a mannequin and hides it in the basement, but can't sleep because memories of their crime haunt him. The sheriff visits with bad news. Someone robbed a store near where they found the truck, taking $23. The robber wore old cowboy clothes and a mask. They think it might be his son. The father tries to protect him, saying his son was wearing different clothes when he left. When the sheriff suggests the clothes might be stolen too, the father gets angry, shouting that his son isn't a thief or someone who hurts people. After the sheriff leaves, the father borrows that $750 to fix his leaking roof before winter comes. While reaching into a closet, a rat bites his hand badly. He kills it, but the bite is deep and painful. Back in his hotel room where he's writing this story, he thinks he sees a rat and panics. In his memory of 1922, he cleans up the dead rat's blood while his own wound gets worse. The winter is freezing cold, especially with his broken roof. His hand is turning ugly colors under its bandage. As he tries to warm up by the fire, the door keeps creaking open by itself. When he peeks out, he sees something terrifying, his dead wife, covered in blood, walking toward him. He falls into the basement, shaking from cold and fear, where rats surround him and his wife's ghost whispers horrible things. His dead wife's ghost whispers horrible truths about their son. After running away, he robbed a store to buy a gun. Then he stole the neighbor's fancy car to break his girlfriend out of the special home. Their story was in all the newspapers as they ran far away, but their son kept getting into fights, using his gun to scare people. Then one terrible day at a restaurant, someone shot his girlfriend in her stomach. He rushed her to get help, but there was so much blood. She turned ice cold and pale, and their baby died inside her. The father can't bear hearing more. He begs his wife's ghost to kill him, to cut his throat like he did to her. But she won't stop telling him these awful stories. She wants him to suffer. Meanwhile, Their son tried to save his girlfriend by finding wood for a fire, but when he came back, she was already dead, her eyes staring at nothing. Broken with sadness, he wrapped her in his coat and then shot himself. The young lovers died together in the cold snow. Days later, the sheriff finds the father nearly frozen in his basement, his rat bite badly infected. At the hospital, they have to cut off his left hand. The sheriff visits with news. A farmer found a dead woman in a ditch, with missing back teeth. The sheriff thinks robbers killed her on the road, never guessing the horrible truth. Then, on December 18th, they find his son's body by the train tracks. When the father goes to see him, reporters swarm around. He cries when he sees rats have torn up his boy's body. He tells them to fix his son up nice and get the best coffin. At the girlfriend's funeral, lots of people come to cry. But at his son's funeral, it's just him and his wife's ghost, still covered in rats. After that, he lives alone with just one cow. He sells his precious land to his neighbor for only $500, saying they're both broken men now, no wives, no children. His neighbor tells him to never come back. When he gets home, even his last cow dies from the cold. Back in the hotel room where the old father writes his confession, he sees rats everywhere, eating away at his scary visions. He tells how he had to sell his precious land for almost nothing, and even his mean neighbor ended up selling his land too. The father tried working in the big city building houses, but the rats in his mind wouldn't leave him alone. Finally, he admits the hardest truth. His son was right all along. They could have found another way. As he finishes writing his last words in the lonely hotel room, 3 bloody ghosts appear, his dead wife, his dead son, and the son's dead girlfriend. They whisper the same terrible words he once said on that awful night. It'll be quick. These words chase him right into his death.